Alright guys, today I'll be reviewing Cheetah Hunt at Busch Gardens Tampa. This is the Intamin multi-launch here, and it's a family coaster, but it's definitely one of the better ones, and I'll explain why in this review. So let's start off with the presentation, and man, this is a nice looking coaster. I love the color scheme, but more importantly, I love just how this ride looks. The wind catcher tower looks phenomenal in the park skyline. I also love all the theming around this ride. The station looks really nice from the outside, and the structure you dive into for the second launch looks really nice, all the rock work around you and everything. And the scenery around this ride is really nice as well. You've got some water under you during some of the turns. You've also got a lot of trees and greenery. You've got a lot of the animals sort of around you. So it's just a really nice atmosphere, and that sort of connects to the whole theme of Cheetah Hunt, being that you're just a cheetah running around. It's really cool, and it's a family coaster, so it doesn't go too heavily on the thrills, but it still definitely executes that cheetah theme really nicely. The station itself is fairly bland. It's a bunch of switchbacks in this building. The building does have some rock work and everything in it, but nothing too special. You're going to get pretty bored looking at it pretty quick, and I did have to wait in an 80-minute line, which was even longer than the wait I had to wait for Hagrid's, which was really annoying, but it's whatever. It was only on 2 trains, so that's probably why. In terms of row selection, I honestly have no clue what's better, the front or the back. I would assume the front just for that sense of speed. On the wind catcher tower, you'd get the airtime going up, whereas in the back, you'd get it going down, so it doesn't really matter. I did get the back for my one ride on this, but I assume if I got a second ride, I would want the front. This ride does feature the hard over-the-shoulder restraints, however, I personally don't find them to be an issue. I've never gotten headbanging or anything like that on them. I can also get plenty of room and plenty of airtime on this ride, so I personally like these restraints. They're good over-the-shoulder restraints. When I was here, the ops on this definitely weren't very fast. Again, they were only on 2 trains, which for only 16 people per train is pretty bad, but I also think the ops could have definitely hustled up a bit more. I should also note that I got my one ride on the unload side. I don't know how it would be different on the other side, but it's something that I wanted to note in case it is. So let's jump right into this layout. With that first launch, it comes right out of the station, and it's surprisingly punchy. It's almost like backlot stunt coasters. You definitely get a nice little kick on this. After that, you'll hit a very elongated turn. This thing is very boring, very just turning you around to get into the launch. Absolutely nothing here. Then you'll dive down into that second launch, and this is definitely the better of the two. I do think it has a little more power than the first one, and of course it's a lot more sustained. This is actually a very good launch, especially for a family coaster. I definitely like it more than any of the ones on Hagrid's personally. I love the theming around it, and it does have decent kick to it. It's not Storm Runner, it's not TMNT Shell Razor or anything like that, but you'll definitely feel the G's on this one. And then you're going to feel some more G's on the pull-up into the wind catcher tower, and it's not King to Ka or anything, but you definitely feel a bit more G's on that pull-up into it. And then at the top of this wind catcher tower, I assume you'd get good airtime in the front. In the back, I got nothing, but that's to be expected on an element like this. And then you actually go around the tower. And this whole section's definitely pretty bland, nothing too eventful going on up here. But the drop coming out of this is pretty good. You get a nice pop of floater airtime in the back. It's sustained for a few seconds. And then you're going to bottom out and hit this little straightaway in a tunnel. And this is really where you start to feel like a cheetah running around the savannah. After this, you'll hit a very elongated S-hill. This thing definitely does not deliver any forces, but you do feel the speed here, surprisingly. I mean, it does not look like you should feel the sense of speed on this thing. But like I said, the setting and everything really makes you feel like a cheetah through here. Then you're going to turn up into the only inversion, the Heartline roll. And this is a great inversion. You definitely get some great hang time on this, combined with a bit of laterals, which you don't usually get too much of on these inversions like this, but I noticed Impulse had the same effect where you do get laterals on that Heartline roll, and this sort of has a similar effect. I don't think it's quite as good as Impulse's Heartline roll, but it's still very good. After this, you'll hit a mid-course, which does trim you a bit, at least it did on my ride, and then you'll turn down into this straight section, which, again, here you're just feeling that speed more before turning into the Cheetah Hunt twistiness. It is a very fun section, twisting in and out of the rocks in the water. This is definitely one of the highlights of the ride. You get a bit of laterals here too. Then after this, you hit your final launch, and I don't think it's quite as good as the second one. It's definitely not as sustained, but it is very fun still. And then you'll hit a pretty good airtime hill. I would say this gives Flowjector. It definitely feels like a weaker version of Fahrenheit's final hill. And then you hit another really elongated S-hill. This is another one that doesn't dish out laterals, doesn't dish out airtime, but yet you still feel that sense of speed. You still feel like you're a cheetah blazing throughout the savannah. This ride has very strange pacing in that its elements are big and drawn out at times, and it seems like you should lose a lot of speed, but you just don't. Even if you're in the back like I was, like I could just stick my head out to the side if I wanted, especially because I'm taller, and I could still feel the wind in my face throughout here. It's very peculiar, but I definitely appreciate that. It at least gives that illusion of feeling like a cheetah, even though it is a tamer version of what it really could be. So then you're going to hit one more elongated S-hill, and I could see this giving airtime in the front, but in the back I didn't really get any forces here. Very weak laterals on this, and you still have a pretty good head of steam going into the brakes, which, like I said, is very weird for a ride like this. And then after that last turn, you do have one last pop into the brakes. In the back, I did not get anything here. In the front, I imagine it could give a little airtime, but definitely nothing too crazy. And now that is your ride on Cheetah Hunt. It is a very fun family coaster. It is a family coaster. There are a few people I have heard who say it is a thrill coaster. I definitely don't think so. The best parts of the ride are that drop off the wind catcher tower, the second launch, and that Heartline roll. And while the Heartline roll is really good, I don't particularly think it'll be too intense for kids. I do think this is also a very smooth ride. I know it's definitely harder for me to notice roughness than a lot of people, but I do think you can bring any kid or any grandparent or anything on this ride and they'll be fine. So for Cheetah Hunt's final score, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's a great family coaster. It definitely is. You've got that cheetah feeling just running through the savannah that the kids will love. It's definitely not too intense, which isn't going to scare them away, but it does have a few exciting moments for the thuzies out there. But of course, I can't give this too high of a score because it isn't necessarily the most intense thing in the world. So that's my review on Cheetah Hunt at Busch Gardens Tampa. Let me know what you guys think of this down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.